Hey YouTube, Puff and Snuff here. Ian checking in as always from beautiful Northeast Ohio. Gonna do a new Snuff review today. Really excited about this one. But before we launch into that, a real quick point of order. If you watched my last video where I took my first guess in the open source project's Easter egg competition, but didn't go back and check the comments, you may not know that my guess was apparently quite wrong, which means that game remains very much afoot. So for those of you playing along, good luck. For those who aren't, you might want to think about it. Details on that are in that video and that video's description, or reach out to Chris over at OSP, etc., etc. So, that said, let's move on to today's topic, which is a German artisan snuff. Brand name is Rosinski. Rosinski, even if you haven't had it, may be a familiar name to you. It was sold at one time on MrSnuff.com. It is not sold there now. However, Rosinski is still very much in business. They are still producing and selling and distributing snuff. You can go directly to their website, and they will ship to us here in the States. So, good news there. They have a pretty robust selection of snuffs. I have a few more on their way to me. But for today, we're going to be talking about Poltergeist. I don't have the description pulled up in front of me to read to you, but kind of working from memory. They talk about camphor. They talk about nutmeg. They talk about being relatively high in menthol. I disagree there. And also in nicotine. So I don't have the original packaging for this. So I've just kind of been carrying it around in one of the generic metal screw tops. That's how it looks. I don't know if that's going to focus enough for you. You can certainly see the color. It's kind of a medium-ish brown. There are some lighter, coarser flakes in there as well. It is quite dry. It'll dust just a little bit. It does not pill. So it is a drier and also somewhat coarse cut on this thing. The tin aroma is amazing. You get the menthol, but they said this was relatively high in menthol in the description. Even in the tin, the menthol is understated. It's there, but it's not a menthol bomb. You do get a little bit of that camphor. I don't get nutmeg in the tin, to be honest. What I do get beneath the camphor and the menthol is something that reminds me a lot of the Bernard Schmalzlers. That almost cocoa-y, dark, fruity, sweet. Yeah. To me, in the tin, this is very similar to a straightforward Bernard Schmalzler, plus camphor, plus menthol. And what can be tricky is if you don't pay attention to that grind going in, when you stick your nose in that tin, it smells like this would be a really soft, sweet, dessert-like, easy to take, nice and moist snuff. But in reality, there are some, and maybe you can see some of that. These are some fairly chunky and dry grains in there. So you're not going to want to take this massive pinch and just suck softball-sized pinches of this up your nose. That ain't going to fly. But we will get this in there, proceeding with just a little bit of caution. It is relatively easy to take. All things considered, this is not taking a toast. Or a scotch or anything like that, an Indian white. But pay a little bit of respect when you're taking the pinch. You don't want to go gangbusters on there, or it's going to be problematic. As soon as it hits your nose, the first thing you get, more than the aroma of the menthol, is the feeling of the menthol. That cooling, that opening, and it's really nice. But there's not a lot. I've talked about this on here before. As much as I do like menthol, I'm sensitive to it, and not sensitive in the menthol rebound sinus sense, but sensitive in the sense that it's one of those aromas that if there's even just a little bit too much of it, it takes over the entire scent. And there's little enough of it in here that I can smell it, and that I can certainly feel it, but it actually opens everything else up to me. Beneath that, the first thing I do get is a good little punch of camphor, but that recedes pretty quickly. So at first pinch, this is very much a medicated snuff. It is menthol and camphor. As soon as that camphor steps back, which it's already done, you get that sweet, dark, schmaltzler-like aroma. Does not feel like a schmaltzler. This is not oiled or greased or fatted or however you want to translate that. But it has some of those similar aromas. Where it's different is that there's another layer below that where you can pick up the honest-to-God tobacco aroma. You get the actual leaf. And by now, I think I'm probably, somewhere 2.5 minutes into the pinch. Most of that sweetness is now kind of playing way, way in the background. And what I get is tobacco and camphor. Everything else is still there. So it's not as if you take a pinch and 2 minutes later, oh, it's a camphor snuff and nothing more. Everything else is still there, but it has stepped way back. So this snuff is doing exactly what I would expect an artisan snuff to do. This is not to say that larger scale snuff manufacturers can't and don't achieve this. But what I really look for, unless the artisan says, look, here is a straightforward, simple toast, or this is designed to be a very monotone snuff. Most artisan snuffs that I've had experience with, whether it's Old Mill or whether it's OSP, now we've got Rosinski, the Sir Walter, you expect layering, right? And you expect those layers to change as far as who is playing kind of at the front of the orchestra at any given moment. This snuff certainly achieves that. From the medicated aroma that kind of gives way to a schmaltzlery kind of aroma that kind of steps back so tobacco can come into play. Then the camphor comes back. And I know from experience from playing with this thing for about the last week or so, by the end of it, this will kind of turn into a good quality tobacco with the camphor riding on top of it. The other thing that it does that I expect from an artisan snuff is that you can always smell the tobacco. And, I think both Chris at Open Source and the late Chef Daniel at Old Mill are excellent examples of people that know how to take a lot of ingredients and do a lot of stuff with this leaf, but never get in the way of the fact that at the end of the experience, you're going to get the aroma of the tobacco leaf itself. Rosinski, at least in terms of Poltergeist, has nailed that as well. So top marks all the way around. Incidentally, the one thing I haven't mentioned since the very beginning is nutmeg. At no point did I smell it in the tin. At no point do I smell it in the nose. Right now. Keep in mind, I am indoors. There's a window right behind this camera that is closed. That ceiling fan you see up there very clearly is not spinning. I took a pinch of this morning, and I went out to get the mail. Totally different story. You go somewhere where there's fresh air, there's moving air, there's cooler air, and the nutmeg opens up right behind that camphor. It's almost like the nutmeg is kind of like hiding behind the camphor the whole way through this thing, and unless you're outdoors or in moving air or something like that, it never pokes its head over the shoulder to say hello. If you're indoors, if you're just relaxing on the couch, watching TV, not doing much of anything, taking a pinch, he doesn't really like to come out to play, apparently. So there is nutmeg in there, but you have to be in the right environment, and you kind of got to look for it. All around, guys, this is great stuff. I do have some more Rosinskis on their way to me. I will review them all in turn. Really looking forward to them. If and I was talking to Chris about this actually, and I said something along the lines of, if any one of these snuffs from Rosinski that I'm about to get are half as good as this Poltergeist, it will have been worth the cost of the entire order. This really is top drawer stuff. It is worthy of the artisan designation by every possible measurement. Should be no surprise that this is at least a 9 out of a 10 for me. This, to me, if you like camphor and medicateds but aren't specifically chasing that menthol bomb, this is exactly something you're looking for. If you like a Schmaltzler aroma, but maybe you're more of a seasonal Schmaltzler guy like I am, and maybe you have the taste for it, but you really don't want that heavy, super sweet thing, this is going to get you where you're trying to go. In terms of nicotine, again, this is kind of where I disagree with the review. It said strong in menthol, strong in nicotine. I would say mild in menthol and moderate in nicotine. Again, I think I've said this in every video I've made, so you know this by now. I don't consider myself a good judge of nicotine, so don't put a lot of stock in that particular observation, but to me, this is not a big nicotine punch. What more can I say? Clearly a 9 out of 10 at minimum. Could be a 10 depending on the right mood. Totally worth trying out. As with all, coincidentally, apparently the shipping from Rosinski is dirt cheap compared to what we're used to here in the States. If you've been a Mr. Snuff customer at any point, you are used to paying quite a bit for your shipping. Don't quote me. I'm in Ohio. This actually got shipped to someone else here in the States who's breaking it up and sending it to me. I think he said this was $7 or $8 to ship an entire order of snuff, and it took like a week to get here. So don't be put off by ordering internationally if Mr. Snuff has soured you on that at all. Totally worth it. Always good, I think, in a hobby that is constantly challenged by outside forces, and we're expected at some point to cave because, of course, tobacco and nicotine are forces of evil, which of course is utter bullshit. I think it is important that we support artisan makers who are trying to carve out their own piece of this marketplace, especially when they are as good as these guys. And it's not giving money for the sake of being a good guy. You get a really good product in return. That's it. Once again, the Rosinski website will be posted right down there in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and all those other YouTube-y things that we presenters are supposed to say at the end of every video. Guys, that's all for me. We'll be back soon with some more snuff reviews. Till then, take it easy.